Are y'all named out pretty far? Like, or is it just y'all and then to the table?
Yeah, you just see us basically. Yeah. Probably. I don't know, on mine at least. You know what we're talking about. Hey guys, we're getting started. If you're joining us live, we'll get started here in just a second, get everything set up. We want to make sure that we came to you guys clean and clear and all of that. So hang out with us for a second as we get Dan back up here. We get a few more people that are coming in. We know are coming in the door. He's going to mess with the camera. Are we live, Dan?
I'm not sure. Just figured this out. Pretty much. It wants to.
You're going live on YouTube, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you turn it off?
Yes. Getting sexier. Getting bigger and sexier.
We are live.
We are live. We are live. Hey guys, we're coming to you live from Omerta, South OKC, the mothership. We're kind of getting ready still and kind of getting situated, so bear with us for a minute. I know we got at least one more person coming in the room, and so when he gets here, it'll probably be a little noisy, if that's okay. And so hang out for a few minutes as Dan gets his cigar cut and lit, and then we get rolling. So, y'all good? Everybody good? Got your cigars going? Mark's got his going.
Place is packed.
It is packed out. I think we're going to 1,000 people in here.
Yeah.
Oh man,
That's a miracle.
You know, we've had some big events here, and one of the bigger events. I think we squeezed almost 200 people in both ends, and it was people outside sitting under a shade tent. I mean, it was crazy. It was a good day though. We had a lot of fun with that. One of the PCH first that we did. So yeah, that's good. Which actually plays into what we're talking about here in just a second. So you guys ready to dig into it?
Cool.
Let's go. All right, guys. Like I said a second ago, welcome to Cigar Church, where our passion for cigars and our love for Jesus collide. We are here doing our first live, so it's going to be a little bit squirrely. It's going to be a little bit different. Where
So it needs to be rotated 90 degrees.
all right, we got some good tech stuff going on already. We got to rotate a little bit here, guys. Bear with us. This is the first time we've done something live
Do it live.
with a live studio audience. Now you can see the wall.
I don't know. I'm good at it.
That's fun. That's fun. It won't reach. Okay.
Well, I could do it.
Turn the
I'll turn the whole thing.
pivot on the stand there.
Is that better?
We got guys in the studio audience watching live on YouTube, so that's good. Is that better? That work? Did it cut us off?
He said that's good.
Okay, very good, very good. Is that
Thanks, Jay.
for Jay? Thank you, Jay. We appreciate you, brother. Always want to get it as best as we can. We're still learning, like you said. And so this is our first time doing it live. So there's going to be mistakes, and maybe there's going to be mistakes. We're going to have fun with it. Feel free to comment in the comment section below with suggestions or just make fun of us. We don't care. We're having a good time with it. So we want to do this very similar to how we do our normal episodes. So we're going to start off this morning just talking about what we're smoking. So Steve, what do we got?
CAO, Joe Torpedo, Connecticut, Connecticut wrapper. Binders, Nicaraguan, fillers, Nicaraguan.
Okay.
First time having it, so
Yeah.
smooth, creamy.
Looks kind of nice and light.
Yeah.
Early morning. Very good. Very good. What do we got, Dan?
I am smoking a Crux Limitada. It is a Nicaraguan Dominican filler blend, and it has a United States Connecticut wrapper and a Nicaraguan binder. So I stick with my Nicaraguan roots. Crux is actually made at the Placencia factory in
Yep,
Nicaragua. And it's nice. Got some sweet, a little bit of maybe a white pepper. It's not that dark.
Yeah,
Strong.
yeah. But enough that's coming through, you
Yeah.
you taste something good, good, very good. I'm smoking the My Father's La Opulencia, one of my go-to cigars. A real good cigar. I haven't had one in probably a month or two, and when I was trying to pick out a good cigar for this morning, I came across it. I thought, man, I haven't had one, so it's really good to get that flavor profile back. When you smoke a cigar a lot, you kind of get tired of it sometimes, and then you go on to something else. But then when you go back to it, it's like just going back to that old friend. It's like going back to that old, that old recipe that maybe your grandma used to make or something. You're like, oh, I forgot how much I love this. And so it's a Mexican Rosado Oscuro wrapper with Nicaraguan filler. So something you probably have you had one of these?
I have not had that.
Okay, you've had it recently. Yeah, you enjoyed it. Yeah, yeah. Because we were having a conversation about My Father's cigars.
The best rappers in the game.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a good, strong cigar. It's a little stronger than I probably should have started off with this morning, but I won't be smoking another one until later this afternoon. So I think it'll be good. So, all right, guys. So today we want to talk to you about something really important to us. Something that for us as cigar smokers, we've touched on it multiple times in previous episodes, but here live we wanted to really discuss it. But the idea of fellowship as a cigar smoker, as friends who smoke cigars, there's this term called Brothers of the Leaf, BOTL, Brothers of the Leaf. And it describes this idea of the fellowship that goes on in a cigar lounge and just that camaraderie that comes from it. What are some of the things that you guys appreciate about the cigar lounge fellowship?
But to me, it's like a church.
It is, yeah.
I mean, like you said, there's always great fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone's willing to help other people that go through
Mm-hmm.
trouble or going through needs.
Yeah,
We have friends now that want to be illnesses,
yeah,
lost loved ones, lost a
Yeah.
job, etc. People we pray for. They know when they come here, it's like a church. They can be safe, be vulnerable. Our brothers will pray for them or just hear them out, hear what their problems
Yeah.
are,
yeah.
who they can
Yeah.
talk to.
Yeah, two words you said there that I think are so important is the idea of being safe in a vulnerable place. And as we're talking about this, we're talking about brothers. At least this goes for ladies as well. We got a couple ladies in the room. This goes for ladies as well, but really for men. I mean, girls, nothing against you ladies, but you guys have so many venues, avenues to express your emotions and express. You got girls' night. You got whatever, where you can go and hang out and you guys just love to just pour it out, right? Guys, we don't have very many places where we can go and sit with another brother that doesn't feel awkward when we share our emotions, that doesn't feel awkward when we open up a little bit more. And for some reason, as you sit down and you enjoy a cigar with somebody, it almost gives you that permission, right?
When I'm saying there's like a church, I'm not saying everybody is a believer.
Right.
But I guarantee you, they know somebody in the cigar house that is a believer.
Mhm.
They're slowly getting into it. So,
Absolutely.
whether they know it or not.
Absolutely. What are some of the things you like about the fellowship?
I mean, looking from a networking aspect, the type of people that you meet. You could meet, somebody from, factory worker or construction worker coming off, police officers, and then you turn around, there'll be, city councilman or college professor.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and everybody kind of comes together and it's this, community.
Mhm.
And then if you need something like, I need somebody to work on roofs. Do you know anybody? And there's always somebody that can say, oh, I work on roofs or
So
this
it's
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I trust this person.
Yeah. And there's a network there, and it's a community within itself.
Yeah.
So there's a lot when you go into a lounge, there's just a lot of resources as well to help you, through life. So I think that's an aspect that I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take it from the general and get a little more specific. And I know I'm going to put you guys on the spot. We didn't talk about this in pre-production, but let's take it from the general, and that's part of being live, right? We just have the fun with this. Give us a specific way that you have been touched by the fellowship of a cigar lounge. Like maybe guys came over and helped mow your yard when I don't know. What's maybe a specific way? I can go first if you guys want to have a little time to chew on it. Well,
So that would be helpful.
that would be helpful. So we were a number of years ago, I guess. I've got two boys, 18 and 22 years old right now. And my 22-year-old was probably, I'm looking at my wife for help here, 15, 14 when he had his surgery. And so 7 years ago, I was working in church and as a pastor of the church, and my son needed to have it wasn't a serious surgery, but a very emergency level surgery, something that when we found out the condition, the doctor said, you're going to be in surgery tomorrow. And during the next day, it was within 48 hours. And what really touched us and what really sold me on the idea of fellowship was as we're sitting in the hospital room, in the waiting room at the hospital, as my son's back there having his surgery, more people from the Cigar Lounge called me than any other aspect of my life. Probably within a few hours, I had a dozen guys from the Cigar Lounge call. That night, we had a guy come and bring food over. We had guys going, hey, we need to go pick your other child up at school. How about your dog? Is your dog okay? We didn't even have a dog at the time, but do you have a dog that he's fed? Do you have, all this type of stuff. And it was just this, they saw a need and they immediately jumped to it. And people just started organizing and going, okay, what do we need to do to help Clay and his family out right now? Because it's a difficult time. And that's kind of the church aspect that you're talking about.
Old school church.
That's, the old school church that, you'd have the meals put together, you'd have all this stuff done, and to me, that was the first time, the real time that I was like, there's something special going on in the Cigar Lounge that men bonding that normally don't do that, in other aspects. So did that give you guys enough time to think of one?
Well, I don't even think like that, like a need, but I know how many times I've had a hard day at work, bad day, didn't want to come here, but I do. And this, the community and talking to people and this, I can't tell you about need, but
Yeah. And that's just as important though, isn't it?
absolutely.
And like you say, it's those days that you're like, man, I need to go somewhere to blow off steam or to relax before I go home. I don't necessarily want to go to lounge, but then God works through it and make something happen through that fellowship. What do you think?
I was thinking of a couple of things. First, in a practical setup, kind of like what we were talking about before. My daughter was up against the wall at car there.
Oh yeah,
and, she had brakes in really, really bad shape. And they wanted to call.
Dustin to the rescue.
Yeah.
Shout out to Dustin because I was mentioning it. Dustin's like, well, I can do that for you.
We're going to get a lot of comments. Who's Dustin?
Yeah.
Can we get his number? Can you work on my car? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to overload it, but maybe he wants to.
Yeah, maybe.
So that was very helpful, to have that connection. But secondly, you and I met, to the Cigar Lounge, and that was a scenario where we were in a situation we weren't in church at the time because we kind of COVID happened and everything else. We kind of we'd gotten out of the habit. And it was one of those things that I wanted to find something right there.
Yeah.
The lounge. So like, this makes
And
sense.
it was a perfect match because we needed a sound guy and we needed a technician to do all that. And here you are. So very good. And here we are with Cigar Church on top of all that. So that's good. That's good. Hopefully you have had one of these types of experiences. Hopefully something has happened for you where you've been in a lounge. If you're a cigar smoker, you've been in a lounge and you've connected with the people. I've been to other lounges around the city. I've been to other lounges in other states. We're traveling, and I hear the same stories over and over again. And maybe my question is why does it take a cigar lounge, the environment at a cigar lounge, for men to have a legitimate connection like that? Why don't we? We go through all kinds of stuff in life. We know that you're struggling at work, I'm struggling at work, whatever. We know that we all have family issues. We all have marriage issues. We all have, things going on. Why does it take a cigar lounge?
Something special about this too.
I think you're right. I think there's just something that it's an equalizer, right? It balances out. And rich or poor, black, white, Republican, Democrat, don't matter, right? When you're in here, you're a cigar smoker. And so you have something in common with the guy next to you. And that's that starting ground, that place to begin. One thing that we've talked about in the way that we do Cigar Church, we intentionally at the first of every episode ask each other, what are you smoking? There's a couple different reasons for that. That kind of breaks the ice for the video, but that's the icebreaker for a conversation. So if you're ever in a lounge and you're need to talk to somebody and you just don't know how to open that conversation, just sit down and ask the guy next to you, hey, what are you smoking? That smells great. Or what, and that begins a conversation that opens doors and it's not awkward. And so that's why we start our conversations here in front of you guys with that same question. So use that if you need to in a cigar lounge environment. If you're kind of sitting there and nobody's talking to you or whatever, just ask the guy next to you, yeah, hey, what do you smoke? And that'll open the doors for a good conversation. Anything else you guys want to add to that before we move into our?
I meant to add one earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
How about this? Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. Those are the brothers of youth theme, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. The thing, it brings in both aspects. A friend loves at all times, but a brother is for a time of adversity. You know, I was watching the thing the other day. It was just a little video clip on Instagram or Facebook or one of the other ones that said, how many of us have a 3 a.m. friend? You know, most of us have a bunch of 6 p.m. friends that you call at 6 p.m. and go, hey, can you help me move my couch? Or can you come over and do this or that or whatever? And sure, they'll be there. But how many times do we as guys have somebody we can call at 3 a.m. and we know they're going to answer the phone and we know,
I'm not sure Dan Lynch.
I don't know Dan well. I mean, Dan's, he's probably
texted him before. He's
Yeah.
kind of,
I'm a grumpy guy.
Yeah. You grew up at 3 in the afternoon.
Oh, well, I mean,
So, but I think that's what that verse is really getting at, is that, this brotherhood, this friendship that we have. It's not talking about the cigar lounge, but I think it applies very well to it. Yeah, very good. Very good.
and I wanted to add something to it. Some of those guys out there may be struggling financially, or and you can't afford the membership dues to the lounge. A lot of lounges have the rule that if you buy a cigar there, you can smoke.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that gives you that ticket, if you will,
To
to
get
get into that
Yeah.
lounge environment and at least test the waters. But
Yeah.
I would encourage it if you're a cigar smoker.
or thinking about being.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
a lounge.
Get a membership. Yeah.
And if you can afford the membership, get the membership. It's worth every bit.
Some would argue you can't afford not to.
That's true. That's true. That's
I-
where I'm at.
My current job I got because of a friend from the cigar lounge. And so, to be honest, I couldn't afford not to because I wouldn't have got the job that I have. So, that's just part of that brotherhood, right? So today, as we kind of transition from our discussion about the fellowship in the lounge, I want to transition to what today is. Today is Palm Sunday in Christian tradition. It's the Sunday before the resurrection. So 1 week before the resurrection, it's the week that Jesus was crucified, arrested and crucified. And there's a really interesting thing that happens on Palm Sunday. The reason it's called Palm Sunday. And what I like about it is, as we talk about cigars and being brothers of the leaf, there's this story in scripture about palm leaves. And it's a loose connection, I know. Don't hate me for it. But it is this beautiful story that happened historically on this day, the week of Jesus' arrest. So let me read it to you here out of Matthew chapter 21. We're going to start in verse 1. It says this: as they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, go to the village ahead of you. And once you are, when you're there, you will find a donkey tied there with her colt by her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, tell him that the Lord needs them, and he will send them right away. This took place to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. Say the daughter of Zion, see, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. And they brought the donkey and the colt and placed the cloaks on them, and Jesus sat on them. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. So these palm trees, these palm branches were spread across the road. That's where Palm Sunday comes from. It says then, the crowds went ahead of him, and those that followed shouted. And this is what's key. This is what's important to understand in this text. Hosanna to the Son of David, or praise, or save is the word there. Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. But Hosanna in the highest. When Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred. And I love that word in the Greek. The English doesn't do it justice. This is where the English translation just falls short. The whole city, when it says the whole city was stirred, it actually is the same word as earthquake. It's this idea of just being just shook. So the whole city was shook or stirred and asked, "Who is this?" And the crowds answered, "This is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee." So here's the reason I want to bring this up and talk about it. Because when we're in the cigar lounge, you're going to encounter people of all different faiths, people without faith. You're going to encounter people with different opinions about who Jesus is, who Jesus was, and you're going to have some interesting conversations about that. And so, what is just remarkable about the story is just a few days later, 4 or 5 days later, these exact same crowds are no longer shouting Hosanna. They're calling for his crucifixion. They're calling for his death. They're cursing him. So here's the question I have is, who do you say Jesus is? Why do you say he is who he is? And how does that affect your life? And so let's open that up. I mean, if the crowds are shouting Hosanna, the crowds are shouting, blessed is the Son of David, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord, and they're acknowledging him as Jesus, what do we do with that? Who do we say he is?
Savior of the world. My personal Savior.
Your Savior. I'm the Savior of the world, right? What else?
I think that encompasses it.
Yeah.
To believe that Jesus is the Son of God. And there's nothing else higher than that. God was God in flesh. And, to acknowledge him as that, it's saying,
Yeah.
Personally, I wrote down Matthew 12:21. In his name, nations will put their hope.
Yeah.
That's the reason we have hope. Life's hard.
Absolutely.
Imagine how life is hard being having no hope.
Yeah, and I think that's key with the people here, right? They see this fulfillment of prophecy, the Messiah coming into Jerusalem on a donkey, and they've got this hope that now's our time. And if you understand the context of the people back then, they were looking for a worldly savior, somebody that would save them from the Roman occupation. And so they see him come in, they're thinking, okay, now's the time. But then a few days later, when they see him arrested by the Romans, they see him beaten and within inches of his death, then they're like, wait a second, we don't want this guy. So what do we do when Jesus doesn't live up to our expectations? Do we question who he is? Or do we question our expectations that we put on him?
Should we question who he is then? Did we question who he is? Probably. Because, I think that's a human trait. I think we look, when we don't understand why something's on the way that we want to see it work out, we question. We do. And so when God's not coming to save the day the way that we think he should, I think there is doubt that creeps in, and then we do have to step back and say, we need to look at it and say, okay, but what has he done before? In the Jewish tradition, the staff of Moses, they talk about how it had things carved into it to remind them of the things that God had done for them in the previous, and that was a Jewish thing that kind of came down through the centuries, was that they had those to remind themselves, even in the bad times, this is what God has done for us in the past, so we know he will come through. He is faithful. It just doesn't look the way that we think it should. Salvation. Because it's important, just like you said. The Jews back in that day were looking at Jesus and saying, he's going to rescue us from the Romans. But there was a much bigger, greater picture, even bigger than they could ever imagine, even though the scriptures told them what was going to happen. They saw that here now, we need to get out from under Roman rule. He's come to do that, so therefore I'm going to follow him. But there's a greater picture.
So I think that's a really good point to think about here, right? We want to judge Jesus and whether God is good based on what's happening right now, and that's awfully short-sighted, right? And you use the word big picture. God being outside of time and the one who created everything and understands where everything's going, he has that bigger picture in mind. He understands that, okay, my difficulty today might actually make me better and put me in a better place where he wants me later. It helps me grow personally. Yeah. What else? What else do you think?
It's natural to question God the way I do it. I don't like to question it out loud for people. I have my own personal conversation with it.
Yeah.
It shows me that he's right.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that it's natural for us to question God. I've always believed that as long as when we're questioning God, as long as we're honestly seeking truth, no matter what that truth is, I think that kind of questioning of God is welcome. But when we're questioning God to force upon him our timeline or our agenda, I think that's when God's like, don't question me. That's not your place. That's not for you to know. I think that's good. What's really interesting to me about this is he had not too long before this happened had a conversation with some disciples where he asked them, well, who do people say that I am? Who am I? What are people saying about me? And Peter gives a few different answers. He said, well, they say that you're Elijah come back, you this prophet, that prophet, and then he says this, and this is the key question for today. Who do you say that I am? Because it doesn't matter what everybody else says. It doesn't matter what all the other guys in the cigar lounge say. It doesn't matter what your family says. It doesn't matter what you thought. Who do you say that I am? And Peter says, you're the Messiah. You're the Son of God. And that beautiful statement where he says, you're right. And on this rock, that statement, I am building my church. And for me, that's key. When we look at the crowds are fickle. The crowds will say, one day be in support of a president and the next day want to hang him. One day be in support of their team, their local, ball team, and the next day want the coach fired. Crowds are fickle. But the question is who do you say that I am? And are you willing to stand by that?
I think I was thinking about that actually this morning in regards to the scripture. There was definitely a mob mentality. And, call it peer pressure, call it mob mentality. It's basically the same principle. You had all these people shouting Hosanna. How hard would it have been to just middle of the crowd and shout just like everybody else?
Yeah.
And then literally not even a week later, they're yelling crucifying. And again, it's that mob mentality because, everybody's doing it, so I'm just going to join in. The question is, what do you do by yourself? If imagine a scenario where if we were in a situation today where nobody else, proclaimed Jesus as Lord, and it was just you, what would you do? If you were against the entire population that you're around, how much harder would it be to proclaim his?
Well, look at Daniel, right? Look at the story of Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You've got Daniel that stood up against the crowds and proclaimed God is God, and I'm not going to worship the king as God. And he gets him thrown in the lion's den. And his buddy, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, did the same thing, and it got them thrown into a fiery furnace. And so when push comes to shove, and you're faced with a firing squad, or the gallows or whatever, you still willing to proclaim that God is God.
And think he would.
Yeah, I mean,
Peter
sure.
got scared.
We'll puff our chest out and be like, yeah, absolutely, I would. Right. But even Peter got scared, and denied him 3 times, even to a little girl. How intimidating. Little girl was like, no, I saw you with him. No, wasn't you crazy little girl? I mean, come on. And so we're going to continue this conversation into next week when we do our next live event, because as the story progresses, we see the arrest, we see the crucifixion of Jesus, but on top of that, we see his resurrection, which is the most important event in the history of the world, regardless of where you fall politically, regardless of what nation you live in, regardless of whether you believe him or not. Historically, it is the most important thing that's ever happened in the history of the world. Because if it's true, that alone makes it the most important. If it's not true, you've got nation after nation, group after group that have tried to inflict their will, their idea of who God is on the whole world, and that makes it the most important event in history. There's never been as many books written about any other subject. There's never been more wars fought over any other subject, which is a negative thing, of course. There's so many things that have happened in history that revolve around the person of Jesus that alone makes it the most important event. So we're going to talk about that next week. So we hope that you'd like to join us for that. let me ask you guys, just kind of wrapping up our conversation. Your smoke's going good? Your cigar's good?
Enjoying.
Was that your first time on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
Okay. Yeah, I've never
I've
never had one, so I'm very curious about that one myself. So, and you're enjoying the crowd?
It's a great.
Very good. I mean, you guys pick, that's a great size one for an early
It
one
is.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good in temperament and being a lighter cigar. That's good in size, and I think I picked it. I love this cigar. It's great, but I'm feeling pretty overwhelmed by it. So, any last comments you guys want to say before we sign off for the morning?
You know, I do want to say one thing, and this is kind of tied in back to what we were all talking about. When it comes to going to the lounge, you know, you may be in the lounge and you may think, hey, it'd be cool to have, wish there was a Bible study at our lounge. Maybe that's something God's calling you to do.
Absolutely.
You know, they're popping up everywhere. We see them pop up all over the United States. And, you know, so it may be something God's calling you to do. So if you're feeling led, you know, maybe that tug, and when you're next time you're in your lounge, you know, don't be afraid to start a conversation, even if nobody else is talking.
Yeah.
Because you may be surprised at how many people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something you can do on your own, or you can reach out to us and we'll help you with that, or go look at episode number 3. Our friend Vince, he's a part of Holy Smoke, and they've got a format and they can help coach you along in what they're doing as well. And so those are, you know, 3 good options for being able to do that. Thank you, Dan. That's a good thing. Yeah. You're about to say something, Steve?
Who'd you say he is?
Yeah.
And comments below, let us know who's eating you.
Yeah. And even if you disagree with us, even if you don't, you just came here for the smokes, and you're not sure what you think about Jesus, feel free to in the comments below say, I'm not real sure. And we'd love to have a conversation with you about it. So just be kind. We will be kind regardless. We'll be nice back, even if you attack. That's okay. So anything else? All right, guys. Enjoy your Palm Sunday. Enjoy Holy Week. I know a lot of you guys celebrate Holy Week, and depending on your denomination, you got a lot going on this week. Enjoy it, but make sure you find time to smoke a fine cigar to the glory of God. We'll see you next week. All right, guys. What up, Ken? How you doing, buddy?
I had a question. Oh, no, we all.
All
No, I wasn't going to do that.